Now, as tensions between India and China are at its worst since 1962, a high-level meet is currently underway in the national capital. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is chairing the meet over the line of actual control standoff. Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, 3 service chiefs and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, all of them are currently taking part in a meet, a very crucial meet. The meeting comes 2 days after the Prime Minister-led Cabinet Committee of Security takes stock of the ongoing Chinese aggression. Meanwhile, the brigadier commanders of both India and China will continue in Chushul today. So far, no headway has been made during the talks, and efforts are on to find a consensus between India and China to ease line of actual control tensions. We're cutting across to Abhishek Bhalla joining us for more details on that. Abhishek, here we're looking at a high-level meet that's currently in underway. CDS as well as 3 generals, in fact, we are looking at 3 service chiefs there, including the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, who are all currently part of a very crucial meet. What does this really speak of? Does it mean that the discussions or the talk that went on for over 2.5 hours between the foreign affairs ministers of the 2 countries, India and China, just yesterday in Moscow, did not yield fruit?
Well, soon after the meeting of the ministers in Moscow, the security brass is in a huddle today in New Delhi and reviewing the situation at the line of actual control. Lots of developments taking place, Nabila. There has been hectic activity as far as troop movement, deployment is concerned from both the sides. And here in Ladakh, what we've noticed in the last few days is that there has been a heightened air activity. So the Air Force is pressed into action. They are carrying out sorties, not just during the day, but even at night. And at the borders, while the Chinese have mobilized in big numbers, especially in the Pengongso area, both on the northern as well as the southern bank, the Indian troops are matching them in numbers. And situation obviously has been extremely tense and volatile over the last few days. It remains to be seen how things will pan out after the foreign ministers of the 2 countries have met in Moscow, and they've decided to build on the confidence-building measures. And they've also said that the dialogue between the militaries must continue. And as we speak, the brigade commanders once again meet in Chushul. These meetings have been taking place almost every day, but unfortunately, whatever is discussed as far as disengagement, that doesn't really transpire on the ground.
Right. Thanks, Abhishek, for joining us with those details. In fact, amid the line of actual control standoff in Ladakh, it's seen heightened air activity over the last few days. The Indian Air Force is constantly monitoring Chinese activity over Tibet. The IAF has now deployed Su-30 MKIs, the Apaches and Chinooks. India Today's Abhishek Bhalla in Ladakh bringing us this report there.
There has been a heightened air activity here in Ladakh over the last few days as tensions mount at the line of actual control. The frequency of Indian Air Force fighter jets flying sorties has increased. We can see how one of the fighter jets of the Indian Air Force is flying right now, and this has been the normal scene in the last few days, not just during the day but even at night. There is a lot of air activity. Sorties are being carried out by the Indian Air Force. The message is loud and clear that the Indian Air Force is ready for all challenges at the line of actual control, and this comes amid a time when the Chinese have been making extremely aggressive maneuvers. There's another fighter jet of the Indian aircraft of the Indian Air Force that's flying, and one can say that in the last few days the developments have been such that things have really been volatile and tense at the borders. In the meanwhile, not just the Indian Air Force but also the Indian Army, the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, all are in a state of highest alert. That's what people who are following developments have said. Lots of meetings taking place in the security establishment in New Delhi as well as here in Ladakh to decide what the future course of action is going to be. With camera person Satya, this is Abhishek Bhalla in Leh for India Today.
Now, amid the ongoing tensions along the line of actual control, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi in Moscow. Both leaders reached a 5-point consensus to ease tensions, but no real headway was made on disengagement. The joint statement also did not mention the status quo ante or China pulling back to pre-April positions. In fact, sources reveal that talks were forward-looking and Indian side conveyed that it would not accept any attempt to change the status quo unilaterally. The two ministers, the ministries there agreed that differences between India and China will not become disputes at the line of actual control. Situation is not in the interest of either side as well. In fact, both sides also agreed to abide by all the existing agreements and will continue to have dialogue further. The ministers also agreed that as the situation eases, the two sides should work to build new confidence. Confidence-building measures should be observed. In fact, meanwhile, sources have told India Today that Jaishankar highlighted India's strong concern at massing of Chinese troops at the line of actual control, while China continues to blame India for the provocation. Now, Geeta Mohan joining us live for more details on that. Geeta, take us through the meeting that took place between S. Jaishankar as well as the Chinese counterpart. What really happened on their discussions and their talks on the tensions at the line of actual control? We understand as a summary there that China is still in denial. They're still pushing the blame on India, but they've somehow agreed to maintain status quo. Is that right?
Well, maintaining status quo is bad news for India, Nabila, because the status quo means that Chinese troops will continue to stay where they are at the present moment, which is well within the Indian territory beyond the LAC. And that is not good news, because the problem over here is that while the two sides remained engaged, while New Delhi has decided to engage China, and they have arrived at a 5-point consensus again about engaging, there has been no real conversation and headway in terms of complete disengagement and de-escalation that India wants. Also, more importantly, every time in the past we've seen any statement that has come from the Ministry of External Affairs, we've always mentioned restoration of status quo. Status quo ante has to be something that needs to be restored, but instead to the April days. But instead of that, we've only seen the mention of in future there should be no unilateral change of status quo. The status quo ante term missing in the joint statement, in source-based information that we got from the government, and certainly missing from Chinese statements, because they don't believe in the status quo ante, because they're the ones who aggressed, they're the ones who provoked and who are in Indian territory, is a huge cause of worry. If India is not seeking status quo ante at this point in time, then there is a worry over here, because we are seeing Chinese troops sit in Indian territory within the line of actual control, and it is a huge problem even as deployment continues from the Chinese side to escalate.
Right. Geeta, thank you very much for joining us with those details there. Of course, India and China tensions still remain along the line of actual control. But what really happened in those in that meeting that took place between the two ministers in Moscow? Let's try and understand in detail about the 5-point consensus that India and China have reached upon in that meeting. Now, the two ministers agreed upon that they will not allow differences to become dispute. Remember, that's the one thing that both countries don't want. We don't want a war-like situation. This will not be allowed to become a dispute. That's the consensus that they've reached at. Now, number two, line of actual control standoff is not in the interest of India and China. That's again made clear between the two countries, that the LAC standoff is clearly not of interest to India or China. Both of them, of course, being neighbors, want to work peacefully side by side, alongside. The border areas, of course, should maintain peace and calm so that business can function smoothly between the two countries. We can live peacefully as neighbors. Both sides will abide by existing agreements. Now, that is, of course, something that China has always gone back on its word. In fact, status quo must be maintained as it was prior to April. Prior to May, what the position was, China must maintain that. And this is exactly what both sides will abide by. the existing agreements and the protocols on India-China boundary affairs. Now, this is what both of them have decided, that India-China will agree to continue with the dialogue, whatever it is. If there is, of course, any issue in future as well, India and China agree to continue with dialogue through a special mechanism for consultation and coordination on India-China border affairs. Now, of course, after the situation eases, confidence-building measures should take place. This is something that India and China have both decided, that a lot of talk somehow disappears in thin air. Somehow there's no faith on both sides. Clearly, China, we know what they promise, they never live up to. They always go back on their word, at least from what has been happening on the line of actual control. They've been pushing, they've been intruding, they've been instigating, but they shift the blame on India. But here now, both of them have agreed that after the situation eases, confidence-building measures must take place. Now, this has been an all-important talk. Let's hope the talks there only move forward into peaceful relations between India and China. Now, meanwhile, the current line of actual control standoff has triggered a massive political storm there. Congress MP Rahul Gandhi has taken on the ruling BJP government at the centre over the line of actual control situation. Rahul, in his tweet, attacks Modi government, asking when exactly the government of India is planning to get it back. He also took a dig, asking whether this will also be left to the act of God. Now, AIMIM chief Asauddin Owaisi, in the meanwhile, has hit out at the government, questions as Jaishankar for not mentioning the status quo ante issue with China in Moscow. Now, the situation along the line of actual control remains volatile. Indian troops have been put on highest alert. In fact, this comes even as PLA tries every trick in the book to intrude. The Indian Army has also deployed special mountain forces at friction points. Abhishek Balla there reports from Ground Zero, Ladakh.
Indian Army is in a state of highest alert along the line of actual control. Defences have been ramped up with special mountain warfare forces deployed at all friction points along the LAC.
At a time when the talks are on to de-escalate the situation, the Chinese troops are creating another friction point south of Pangangso.
The Chinese have made multiple attempts to dislodge Indian troops from the heights they are holding. The mountain warfare forces have been added on the Pangong Lake's north and south banks to support the Special Frontier Force, which brought the strategic heights firmly under Indian control.
दक्षिण पंगोंग सो लेक में चीन की फौज ने कोशिश की ऊपर आने के लिए जहां भारत की फौज थी, उनको पता चल गया और एसएसएफ स्पेशल सिक्योरिटी फोर्स कर्नल जमवाल, वो जो ट्रेन होते हैं चक्राता में, एस्टेब्लिशमेंट 22 खुफिया जगह है, वो थे उधर। उन्होंने भारत की मदद की और उन्होंने चीन को ढकेल दिया।
In another big move, the Indian Army has put barbed wire as obstacles at heights under its control to discourage PLA troops from trying to cross the line. Tensions at the LAC are at its highest since the 1962 war, with both India and China setting up major build-up tanks and infantry in the eastern Ladakh sector. But India's aggressive stance has sent a clear message to China. Its sinister expansionist plans won't work.
The situation on the line of actual control has been described as a state of highest alert, and those tracking developments on the ground say a small spark can lead to things completely spiraling out of control. Over the last few days, the Indian forces have seen Chinese movement and mobilization, and in some friction points, the troops are only meters away with heavy arms, making the situation extremely fragile. With camera person Satya, Abhishek Bhalla in Leh for India Today.
Now, India-United States Counter-Terrorism Joint Working Group has lashed out at Pakistan. In a joint statement, India and the United States said that there is an urgent need for Pakistan to ensure that there are no terrorist activities or groups operating on its soil and must denounce the use of terror proxies. It also added that Pakistan should take immediate, sustained and irreversible action in this regard. In fact, Pakistan also asked to bring justice to the perpetrators of terrorist attacks, including that of 26/11 Mumbai strike and the Pathankot airbase attack. The US side reiterated its support for the people and the government of India in the fight against terrorism. Wildfires in the west coast of the United States continue to engulf acres of land and has destroyed thousands of houses. In the past 48 hours, at least 7 people have died due to wildfires. 3 people died from a lightning-sparked fire in Northern California, where 3 were reported dead in Oregon, and 1-year-old boy died as his family tried to escape a blaze in Washington state. The deadly, fast-moving wildfires ravaging have forced at least 5 lakh people in Oregon to flee from their homes. The state officials have said that thick smoke has blanketed the region, leading to dark orange skies. Over 100 wildfires across 12 western states have burned down more than 4.3 million acres so far.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.